Alrighty, folks, let's do this. Welcome back to the Midst of Range. We're sticking to the brand here today, reporting on a story that is roughly 24 hours late, but, I've been busy the last few days, so that's just the way it goes. I apologize. But I want to talk about the DeJounte Murray trade to the Pelicans. He got traded for 2 first-round picks along with Dyson Daniels and Larry Nance Jr. To be quite frank, I'm a bit terrified of the Pelicans. This is not good for me as a fan of a Western Conference team. The West is already so strong, and I was already afraid of New Orleans before this trade, but this just makes them even more threatening. The only reason that New Orleans hasn't been one of the top teams in the West the past few seasons, in my opinion, is just because of health. But they have one of the most well-rounded and deep rosters in the entire NBA. And this trade doesn't really do a whole lot to affect that. Dyson Daniels and Larry Nance are great players, and I am glad that they won't be on their team anymore. But when people were talking about this trade, because DeJounte Murray to New Orleans has been telegraphed for a little bit now, but when people were talking about this trade, they were thinking they were going to have to give up Brandon Ingram for this, and they didn't have to do that. They kept their second best player, or third best player, or whatever you want to call him. He's an all-star, borderline all-star level player, and they got to hold on to him while also bringing in another borderline all-star level player in DeJounte Murray. I'm just scared of them. What else can I say? They are still one of the deepest teams in the NBA because right now, if you look at this roster, nobody really even knows what their starting lineup is going to look like. You could go DeJounte at the point guard and move CJ back to the shooting guard spot, and then have B.I., Zion, and I think Valanciunas is a free agent, so that's like the one question mark there is who's going to be their starting center. But when it comes to those 4 guys, that might not even be the set. Like, you could move one of these guys to the bench. I was previously thinking C.J. McCollum, but I saw Woj tweeted out that they consider C.J. to be like the core of their team, him and Zion, so I'm assuming he's probably going to start. But you still have Trey Murphy and Herb Jones off the bench that can do some damage, and they're definitely starting level talent players. The only thing that makes me a little less worried is that this is not a particularly good 3-point shooting roster, I don't think. I mean, maybe they can prove me wrong, but unless they get like a stretch big to play center for them, Zion can't really shoot threes. Brandon Ingram, contrary to popular belief, is not a good 3-point shooter. I know everybody thinks he is, but he's not. Look at his numbers. He's not a good 3-point shooter. But, DeJounte and CJ are good 3-point shooters, and you have guys off the bench that can hit threes as well. So it's not like they're going to be like the Lakers from the past few seasons where they literally can't hit a three to save their lives, but that is probably going to be their biggest weakness, thinking about it, because otherwise they're going to be one of the best defenses. I know DeJounte kind of fell off defensively in Atlanta, but once you start playing for a contending team, I feel like a lot of times the defensive intensity will pick back up, if you know what I mean. And between that, Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, like this is a deadly, deadly team. I'm very scared of this roster. I think that they would be a tough matchup for the Timberwolves. We do have size on them, but they're one of the bigger teams as well because they play Ingram at the 3, where he would probably be a power forward on most teams. But as long as Zion is healthy, this team is a force to be reckoned with. They just last season or 2 seasons ago, I can't remember which season it was, they were the 1 seed until Zion got hurt in the West. Including, the Jokic Nuggets, all these crazy teams in the West. They were better than all of them until Zion went down. And so now they've improved their roster. So as long as Zeke can stay healthy, I think they have a real shot at contending, going really deep into the playoffs and potentially knocking out my team, which is not what I want to see. Like, I was kind of hoping they were going to have to give up more of a hefty price to, make the West a little more manageable for the Wolves, but sadly, that's not the case.